everybody, and welcome to Plat Chat Overwatch episode 77. Episode 77. That's right, 77.
Your bingo announcer?
Something like that, yeah. Episode 77. Due to some scheduling conflicts, we haven't been able to get Matt in person, but we do have this wonderful representation of him.
Everyone always uses that image, and I think it's wonderful. It's the greatest image ever.
Yes. It's. I mean, there's a reason people use this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a.
He looks lost.
He looks like a rodent.
There is no thought behind his eyes. Yeah. He is a lost man.
How old was he then? Was that like his 25-year-old self? Like
no,
like
he can't have been 25, man. There's no way.
Was this when he was
23?
on the controller?
Oh yeah, he was on the sticks. 100% he's on the sticks.
No, the show called The Controller. The reality TV show.
Didn't even know that was a thing. Didn't even know that was a thing.
Desert?
Because I think he was like 23, I think.
There's no way that man is in his 20s. There's not a chance.
He's in his 20s.
Wait, do you think that's like 31? Or are you
I'm
crazy?
saying he's younger, mate. I'm saying he's younger.
20s, I think he's in his 20s, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's absurd. That hairstyle can't have been acceptable for 20-year-olds.
He's an old guy.
He is an old guy, yeah.
This was early 2000s.
He was doing esports before most people had even started playing video games.
We don't need to get into it. He's here in spirit.
In spirit.
In spirit for this
What
one.
are we doing today, Bren?
Slow news day. You know? Not much going on the horizon.
There's some rumors about the Valiant.
Yeah, we'll wait until there's something more concrete about it, you know, because also that's like crossing into the team preview stuff, and you don't want to cross the content stream.
The Mayhem's going for a road trip.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That is quite cool. But instead, we're going to be taking a dip down memory lane once again. We didn't get a pro player this time. It was too short notice to get a pro player on for this kind of event, but we're going to look back in time. Around this time, this week, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 2 years ago.
3 years ago, mate.
3 years ago. God, it's been that long. 2018, the San Francisco Shock ended up facing off against the Shanghai Dragons. And this is not the Shanghai Dragons that you know nowadays. This is not the San Francisco Shock that you know nowadays. This is two very, 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 very different teams. But we figured we'd do a preview of the 2021 Grand Finals with this episode of the Overwatch Plat Chat. So
you couldn't get more different, mate. If this actually does become the 2021 Grand Finals, if we genuinely do have the Shock versus Shanghai, which it could be a possibility, you will never see a more different match than the one you're about to witness.
No, I don't even remember the meta at this point in time either. But
it's got to be Moth meta, hasn't it?
If we can pull up the clip, we're going to look back, or the video, I should say. Here it is, Stage 1, Week 1, Day 3. Johnny, we'll have to sync you up. I don't know what the time is at the moment.
We're good.
Oh my God, look at us.
Wow.
All on the desk.
My word.
Look at my arms.
Look how skinny I am as well. Wearing that white shirt.
Look at you. You got hair.
I actually remember this because they were used to force us to wear these kind of like pastel shirts or whatever. And I'd have so many of those shirts and I hated them because they were just so boring. And I was like, hey, we're going to put you in this like elementary school dress shirt thing. And I was like, I don't want to look like I'm 12.
I was not ready for the Overwatch League. I was not ready for the Overwatch League. You look at me, and I see someone who isn't even green yet. They're still a seed.
Arguably more different than Shock and Shanghai at this point.
Yeah, I mean, at least I got a fresh trim, fresher than my current one. But yeah, I just was not ready at all.
Who did we predict in this game? People have got a big meme about you always predicting Shanghai in 2018. I'd love for someone to actually run the numbers and find out how many times you did predict Shanghai. I feel like it was less than 5.
I think it was overplayed.
Yeah,
I think it was overplayed a lot.
But you did predict Shanghai, I think, more than everybody else. But it was still not that many times.
Yeah. Oh, Monty and Dart. Wait, what was the predictions, though?
I don't know. Maybe we weren't doing predictions at this point in the season.
Yeah, maybe not. This was, by the way, this was the 4th match that Shanghai ever played in the Overwatch League. So they were 0-3, tough start, you know, probably seen some bad performances, but I don't think people realize just how shitty Shanghai was at this point. And look at this lineup.
I mean, look at this lineup.
Whoa!
Bro, I can already see. I mean, listen, we've already latched onto the algorithm. You put Sleepy in the title. We've done it. We've beaten it. We're beating the YouTube algorithm. This, that team is unbelievable. And look at this one here. Undead.
Wow.
Undead Roshan.
Roshan?
Roshan recently, we were looking at this match on over.gg. Roshan has changed his name to Rubik.
Yeah, Rubik.
He's just
another Dota character.
Yeah.
He was named after the Dota.
Has he gone into witness protection after what he did in these matches?
Altering, free feel. Tons of great players on this lineup here. Wow. And
yeah,
D.Va.
I mean, you know, the Los Angeles Valiant, we talked about a little bit at the beginning of this episode, are going to try and make a full Chinese team, presumably, to come into next season. And this is what a lot of people are going to think about.
The first year, the Overwatch League for the Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah, first year Shanghai. Because even though we've had like really successful Chinese teams and players in Chengdu and half of the Spark, they're like first pick players. Whereas Valiant don't have access to first pick or even second pick, really, because they've gone to, like, they've been spread between the Chinese franchises. And
I mean,
it's going to be interesting.
it is going to be so interesting. But no team will ever be as bad as this first Shanghai Dragons team because the players have just gotten better. The players have just improved.
Never say never, Josh.
No.
Never say never.
Unless
well, also, I mean, people forget, but these weren't even the best Chinese players at the time.
yeah,
they
They were just picked up by like the second or third best Chinese team because the best team was Miraculous Youngsters,
yeah.
and like none of them got picked up for the only Chinese franchise.
It was like nepotism with U4, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Like
There was some
I guess
allegations of that
cronyism.
stuff. Yeah.
Who I think U4 is now one of the is it a coach for Hangzhou?
Yeah, he came back as one of the
Yeah.
coaches for the Spark after being he had a terrible reputation after this year with Shanghai.
if he was able to come back after that,
Oh, sorry, with Shanghai, yeah.
I mean, there's
hope for us all.
There's hope for us all. Yeah,
There really is.
truly
You truly cannot like that was such a huge scandal. Like we don't really talk about it anymore for obvious reasons, but like holy shit. Like some of those Chinese players at the time got cheated out of this Shanghai Dragons spot so bad.
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
remember how much people rated Late Young at the time, like his Zarya play on Miraculous Youngsters.
Yeah.
They were so good. Like they really were, because the Chinese region at the time, people looked down on them. They had been historically super bad in Overwatch, entire competitive history. And then Miraculous Youngsters came around and like really changed that. And like we hadn't had the chance to like really see them play at an international level yet. So like people were so pumped, like, oh my God, Miraculous Youngsters are going to be great. And then all these guys picked up. God bless them. But like they just weren't as good. And like people at the time, I think, they looked at Shanghai Dragons roster and was like, okay, well, none of the Miraculous Youngsters players got picked up. Which probably means that this roster is better. We were so wrong.
Yeah, that's what people kind of naively thought. What is this Valorant player doing in my Overwatch League games? Flanking undead and getting kills on him when they're entirely unaware of it.
It must be. Imagine, okay, like there's that fantasy that people have where if I could go back in time with all my memories, I'd know all the things I do differently. Imagine if we sent a current year Overwatch League player to these matches.
Oh,
It would be like an invasive species that would come in and just obliterate, because these Widowmaker players are getting away with murder.
Yeah, they are.
Like actual murder.
I actually don't think they would be like an invasive species, though. I think if you send just one player, right? Just one player, pick anyone you like, and you put them in a time warp and ask them to play in OWL 2018, they would mauled, because the understanding from their teammates wouldn't be good enough to punish the stuff that they're seeing their opponents get away with. They'd just be assuming that they can do things because their teammates are going to help them or cover them or punish their opponents when they make mistakes, and they just wouldn't be. I think people would get crazy frustrated.
Yep. There's by the way, I'm playing a triple DPS comp with a solo Mercy, which you could do at this point in time because Mercy had the double res.
Which actually kind of came back in vogue for the 2018 playoffs as well. Solo Mercy came back for that point. And the flex support ended up moving over to Hog. And you had like triple tank with 2 DPS.
Here we go.
And a
Roshan
Mercy.
switched to the Winston.
I
This is
loved
it.
watching Roshan's
This
Winston.
is it.
Hello.
Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, the whole thing, there were 2 camps on the Roshan Winston. One saying, "Oh my God, what is he doing? He's feeding relentlessly," and the other camp that said, "You four told him to play like this to make space for undead." And Roshan is just the unfortunate
sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, the fraggy-like casualty of how this team plays.
I think we like I mean we memed on Roshan, but with the benefit of hindsight, I mean the guy. I feel like he wasn't set up to succeed in this team in the slightest.
Fair. Okay, that's where you're going with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there were tons of ways you could have finished that sentence, Bren. So I took a stab at it. I don't think it was the right one. But.
I wasn't going to say, well, I think he was actually really underrated. But that was not what I was going to say. But I definitely don't think he was in the right structure to even have a good season.
No. Shanghai was so out of their depth. I mean, to people who joined the league as fans in 2019 do not understand what a statistical anomaly
they don't.
The Shanghai Dragons were.
I mean, it was absurd.
This team could not exist in any of the other esports titles because there was no franchising at the time. Like, Overwatch League was the first real franchised esport. And
League of franchising?
No, League was later with franchising than Overwatch League was. And they normally you would just get relegated like months earlier. And instead, this team was just allowed to survive, and I don't know.
I mean, it's the argument against franchising.
Yes, it was like Have you ever heard the tale of Prometheus, where he gets strapped to a rock and has his liver plucked out every day, and it just grows back, and that was his eternal punishment for helping humanity and giving them fire. Well, that is what it felt like watching the Shanghai Dragons. Every day they would sit there and have their liver plucked out. They knew they were going to lose. All of the teams were desperate not to be the first team to lose to Shanghai. That's actually quite cool.
By Zushu.
Yeah, Zushu going for the push.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
come
that was
on, mate.
That was
Diamond
like
players were
premium
doing that in
tech at the
2018.
time.
It was.
That was like premium tech. If somebody did that, you could 0.25 that, throw it up on the big screen, and point it out, and you'd be like, yeah, I mean, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That was like stuff that you saw on the official Overwatch Reddit, like 2017. Come on.
No, for real. Like you could.
That was 2018, man.
That was 2018.
That was this world in 2018.
No. Okay.
Slowly,
well,
piece by piece, you understand how I was an analyst in 2018 on the Overwatch League product.
mate, I remember like Emong streaming D.Va back then, and like people were like, he's so educational, and it's like pushing these bombs down the bridges and stuff, and I was like, whoa. Holy shit!
I haven't seen someone.
I wanted to go back to the Shanghai Dragons. Like,
Go on.
It feels like shit because they were also one of the teams that practiced the most because they realized that like they were so bad, and didn't they like just grind relentlessly? Like they probably got burnt out and played even worse because they practiced so much. Like they were practicing like 12-14 hours a day.
Yeah.
They came there earliest to the arena to practice, and they left the latest in like middle of the night, and like it was terrible. The only way all you need to know about how statistical of an outlier they were literally featuring them on ESPN comparing to traditional sports, and they are the worst losing record like compared to all other major sports. ESPN was highlighting this. That's how bad they were. Like truly, there is no sport parallel to the Shanghai Dragons because they were so bad. Unbelievable.
The weird thing is though, in sports, because there's so many more, I feel like sports themselves are very variable. Human performance varies massively from day to day, and just the way that sports are played, there's so many extra degrees of freedom in like how a human body moves compared to a hero where you can only press like 3 buttons, and that's the range of movement you have. Sports do have like an any given Sunday kind of thing. Like once you get to a certain level, there is a bit of like any given Sunday a team can win. In Overwatch, you have like, I don't even know what you have, like maybe 100 team fights. That's a lot of different. It's like you have to be consistent over a range of time that is really quite long in order to have any shot of winning. Mm-hmm. There is no any given Sunday in most esports because it's played out over, like in CS, over 30 rounds, or in Overwatch over 20 team fights for a map, and that is, it's so hard to like luck your way into winning a bunch of them in a row to be able to win against an opponent. I'm not saying it never happens, but the variability is so much lower in most esports than it is in sports.
Still, I mean, for how Undead, D.Va, like they had some things going for them, and they could just never put it together. I think it just, I sort of agree with what you're saying, but like the fact they couldn't win one.
Yeah, that it is kind of crazy.
I mean, it came close.
Oh, that Florida Mayhem match, Bren?
Yeah, it was me and you on the
you and me
desktop.
were going crazy. It's so memorable because we were so invested in the match. Like we were hugging and like going crazy on the desk because like it was madness. The arena was like, oh my god.
Because we thought this was it. This was it.
Yeah.
Then the game ended and the players were crying and I was like, oh Jesus.
And honestly, what I think we've kind of, we've been talking and setting the general scene, but that point C defense was not terrible.
No.
Like both of those teams were
so early on,
a bit scrappy and all over the place. But yeah, like that's the thing. They gave you glimmers. They didn't just get destroyed in every map. Some of the maps that they played, they won. Some of the maps they played were close losses.
Yeah.
But they could never put it together for a whole match.
I think it became a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point. The more they lost, the more likely it was that they were going into have lost because of the pressure building.
Yeah.
The inevitable pressure.
And how much their opponents desperately wanted to win.
Yeah, what is this?
What is this?
Why are they looking at the Florida Mayhem?
It's like a throwback.
Debo's eye, there he is. What is this?
Yeah,
I don't know what this is.
I'm not listening either.
Maybe they're talking about Nevix because Nevix used to play with that team. I don't know.
No, I turned on the casters and Doa and Monty were like, "Oh, there's some Florida Mayhem. We don't know what's happening here."
It's just a
Production problem. Yeah, Blizzard Arena was pretty great. This team as well, the San Francisco Shock. What a turnaround for both of these organizations. Both of these franchises.
You got early on. I mean, you've got this. I think the Shock had a bit going for them early on, whereas with Shanghai there was just minimal hope. But yeah, I mean, if you look at where they are from this point to where they are now, it's absurd. I mean, the Shock are back-to-back champs. Shanghai Dragons coming close to a championship title this year. I mean, it's just an absurd turnaround.
Yeah, and both teams did it in different ways too. Shanghai completely just got rid of their roster and picked up a whole new roster, and then actually did the exact same thing again in 2020. Like they picked up a full Korean roster in 2019, did pretty well, made stage finals, won a stage as well to beat the San Francisco Shock, but then they just replaced their entire roster again for 2020, and then got even better again. Whereas Shock, it was slow, and over time they replaced players and got more and more into it. They already had at this point Super and Sinatra, who a lot of people were really excited about right now, on the bench. So you knew that this wasn't the final iteration of the Shock when they were playing these early games in March.
All the hype on those two players as well.
The huge moment though in San Francisco Shock history. It's like, yes, you have Super and Sinatra waiting in the wings, turning of age, but also Krusty becoming available from the Boston Uprising after the season. Because Krusty was so important and striker for Boston Uprising this season. They got like pretty far in the playoffs. Didn't they get like 8th or 6th or something? Like they were like pretty up there,
I can't remember.
Well,
they were pretty competitive, I think. Yeah, Boston, I think. I think they got like 6th or something. They went out like in the first round of playoffs. I remember you had like 5 and 6 going out.
I can't remember when Krusty left. I think was it after the stage 3? After they almost won stage 3?
Yes. Well,
Krusty ended up either leaving or whatever. And I remember the rumors at the time of Krusty having to coach his players in private. Do you remember?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The rumors that he had to like pull them to one side to coach a lot of his players.
Yeah, because he wasn't getting along with Huck, and there was some divide between the Western and the Korean players. Yeah.
I mean, God.
Yeah.
What the hell am I looking at in these team fights, by the way? Opening team fight, D.Va just walks into the hot on the left, does nothing the whole time. Like, actually nothing. And they're running an Orisa D.Va setup now, and they were running free feel on the Bastion, and they're just walking around with the McCree trying to look for picks, like individual kills.
This highlights what we were talking about, I think, when we did the episode with Custer, which was just the concept of Overwatch as a game. When it came out, there was nothing really like it. I mean, Team Fortress 2, I guess, is a comparison as like a hero shooter, but even then, it wasn't the same because there's so much more influence taking from like the MOBA genre put into Overwatch, as opposed to that raw individual skill. And players were still figuring out how to play the game in like a team fight, you know, like like having a set plan in mind when you approach a team fight for a win condition, for what to look out for how to play your fight and how to play your role inside a composition. There's so much individualism going on all over the place.
There is.
Like Dante's going on like weird flanks being damage boost.
Yeah.
D.Va's trying to find value going on like, look at this.
But Shanghai are not doing anything. Once they get a pick, they're not using that to push. They're just looking for more picks. They're just trying to win the game by their McCree and their Widowmaker getting kills. The tanks are not timing their aggression with the fact that they get a pick or anything like that. They're just standing around waiting to look for kills.
Free feel. What is happening here? Roshan's by himself.
They go and get the res. I don't even know. I mean, no idea.
Like they're not even playing together like as duos. Like the tanks are not even playing together. Like Shushay and Roshan is on the Winston again. Oh my.
Yeah, and Roshan.
On Junkertown, you're playing Winston. Good lord.
Look at this. Roshan.
He forced trance.
Yeah.
What?
I'm not sure how he forced trance.
But he's just distracting for Undead to get picks.
Yeah.
Undead gets 2, and somehow I still feel like they're going to lose this fight.
Well, I think Undead killing 3 of them there should win them that fight.
Should win them the fight.
But this is part of the reason why Roshan played that style, I think, is because Shanghai just, as a team, didn't understand how to play the game of Overwatch when it's like slow-paced at all. They could only play when their tanks sacrificed themselves to make space. They didn't understand how to make space otherwise. And so they just jumped in. And especially when you have Mercy Res, this was actually something that Fraggy did pretty successfully. Philly were doing it successfully. Shanghai were doing it very unsuccessfully. But like the idea of your main tank just jumping in and getting insta-resed does create a lot of space that you can capitalize on.
I mean, it's a 1,000 health swing. Instantly. 500 HP deleted. Oh, insta-res. He brought Roshan up. Oh, we've got another 500 HP to work with.
Yeah, but then
Feed it away.
dies, and Undead is just...
He's just waiting, because like he can't do anything.
And Baby Bay just tries to challenge him straight up. Baby Bay pushes outside of his own shield to try and challenge Undead. And ends up losing the 1v1. But Shanghai have already lost players, so they can't push. They don't gain any map space off of that. They just get a pick. It's just a useless kill. I don't know. This version of Overwatch, I can't remember what I thought at the time. I'd like to put myself in the headspace where... Should
have kept the journal.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah. What did I think about this? I don't know. I don't know. Because I think we were pretty low on the shock.
I remember my mindset was very individualism focused when looking at the game. I was very much focused on like an individual's performance, and I wasn't focused on the team aspect of the game that much.
I think that's what we were like as well. I remember when we did Contenders, there was so much individualism coming from the Tracers that sometimes it felt like the decisive factor was just how good their Tracer player was.
Oh yeah.
In Contenders season.
And that was like for most of the history back then, because like Tracer was meta for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like all these great traders, like soon, like they just get away with playing Tracer because she was consistently so good. But I do agree with you that it was, comps were usually in game plans were just built around like 1 or 2 players. And then it was all about how do you set those players up? And if part of that, it's just like you're waiting for that 1 or 2 player to pop off. Like, how do we facilitate our McCree here? It's like, well, you know, a D.Va can matrix some, Winston can jump in a bit. But like people wait now, they're just way more efficient, like during downtime, or like when they're not like the big part of the plan. Like they just get way more value in other areas of the game that people back then, like here, just aren't thinking about.
Yeah, there's constantly poking going on and like taking map space based off the like, I don't know, like if you break Nomi's shield and he's forced to duck behind a sight line, actually pushing forwards so that you gain a little bit of space and set yourself up on a favorable position, or like threatening a bit of a flank or a distraction. Yeah, it's crazy how much the game has developed, actually. The stat that they just showed there was about Dante's Rip Tires, he is just throwing damage into the enemy team. And Shanghai are just eating it all, just gobbling it up. It's cool to see Dante's development as a player, but he's just always been stranded on unsuccessful teams, honestly. He's always been a top, like a decent level player, decent to top level player. And he's been on the San Francisco Shock before they were elite, and then moved to the Houston Outlaws when they've been very up and down. It's unfortunate. I hope this season is good for him.
Well,
yeah,
we all have thoughts about that one.
Yeah, we do, but I still hope it's good for him.
yeah, I hope Houston do find success as well, to be honest.
I think this first map also highlights how much easier it is to play on defense when you play Overwatch. Like on a fundamental level, you have to have more of a plan when you're attacking. Hi, Matt.
What do you think, Matt?
You have to have like more coordination to be able to push into areas, and my God, they didn't have that.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's a team-specific thing as well. Like I always prefer attacking because I get to dictate the pace of the game and like dictate where we position and like where we take team fights and stuff like that because you're the aggressor. But like Shanghai Dragons, they couldn't string that together for, it was woeful, quite honestly. Like even like Roshan, is it Shushay?
Yeah.
I don't know, Shushay. Yeah, I remember us talking tons about that in 2018. Like by God, like they didn't even use their abilities together.
Yes, yeah. I was just thinking this, Johnny. I was like, God, Horizon Lunar Colony.
I mean, this is a blast from the past, isn't
Holy
it?
moly.
How long has it been since we saw Horizon Lunar Colony in the game?
2018?
Wow, that's a
2019,
great question.
I think.
2019.
It wasn't in 2020.
Yeah, we saw goats on it in 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, the concept of like comboing together your just standard abilities. Orisa Holt at this point in the game is fucking broken. Like, it's a busted ability. I was looking up some old 2016 clips of Orisa Holt. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah.
But the concept of comboing... Some teams were on that vibe, like, pretty early on. But it was a little bit lost. I'm curious now watching them here if they're just going to make any attempt to try and combo together with some mines.
Nevix isn't even matrixing them up, like, past the corner. Like, please, you're playing D.Va here, just like... Okay, are we going to matrix?
I don't know.
Because they were taking so much poke to begin with. DS is 65%.
It looks like they're trying to build Valk. It looks like they're deliberately tanking damage to build Valk. Nevix has been demec'd already.
How? Oh my God.
I don't know. The Shanghai Dragons comp, though, is a good comp for defending Horizon. I remember this being meta at the time. The like Widowmaker Junkrat, it was meta on Anubis, it was meta on Horizon. You have like the long-range threats, and then you have this as well. Are they really just... Valk. I mean, how is Baby Bay going to charge his ult at all if they don't get in through the choke point?
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing. Like, back here, you used to use damage boost to Genji to build ult, and then you play around the Dragon Blade.
Okay, so Nevix is...
Dia already has ult.
Nevix is split from the rest of the team. He's demec'd. Are they going to pull to grab these players
I swear,
together?
if he tires the Mercy Valking, I'm just going to die.
Oh, he's just getting raw grenade kills.
Dak just
but
died
they've got a
to the
tick
nade.
for free.
Yeah.
Dante's just on the point.
Yeah, well, that's Zushu. I mean, you have to go and fight that, right? But this was the thing. There was... And I remember, actually, I distinctly remember Monty praising teams for doing this as well. And this wasn't because Monty didn't know the game or anything. This is just because it was something that was considered... a good tactic at the time, was running like Sombra Tracer comps and then just putting your Sombra and Tracer on the point while the rest of your team was essentially AFK to try and steal ticks. Like that was part of team strategies on Horizon.
Yeah, a big major strategy was actually on Gibraltar, second point. You would you'd put a Tracer on the payload and force them off the ship, force them off the high ground because they had to contest and then you'd find an opening that way. That was like a big major strategy on Gibraltar back then.
Yeah. Well, that blade got absolutely no value from Baby Bay. Interesting that he was playing the Genji back then. I can't really remember that. I really thought of him just as being a hit scan. But yeah, I forgot
maybe
that
now
he
you're
played
seeing why.
Genji.
I mean, it's not
He gets caught.
something
in
to
the
be impressed
trap.
by. Okay, he walks into a trap. That well.
And then he got
Yes, that's a bit of-
insta-res,
Oof.
but they lost Dark. God almighty.
It's absurd to watch.
Just even Duck crossing that the main choke right there. He just flew by it, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean,
Where's the Matrix?
where is the Matrix? Nevix is using the
Nevix!
Matrix for himself to get in instead of using it for his supports. It is crazy, isn't it? It feels... What rank do you reckon this would be now?
Well,
Do you think this would still be GM? Or like,
No.
sorry, I mean still GM. Obviously, pro games are normally way higher than GM. But I don't think this looks like current GM at all.
no cap.
No.
I think this is Diamond.
I think this might be like a diamond game.
Like in the modern day.
Yeah.
People are gonna be.
People are going to hate that take.
Yeah, I
So-
think that people won't like that take at all, but it feels like Diamond.
I think the game
So-
might have actually evolved to that level where this is. Yeah. What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but I usually say when people ask me that the big defining factor between Diamond and Masters is just that Masters players usually just have better mechanics. Like Masters players, they're not much smarter about the game. They don't have much better decision making. They usually just like playing McCree and Widow and those kind of heroes. They have slightly better mechanics, and like it's easier for them to get wins that way.
And that is a good
But
point.
like-
These guys do actually have sick mechanics. It's the decision making that isn't there. But these guys actually did, even at the time, like even if you just ported them into the game right now, the mechanics are still good. Like Undead is hitting some nasty good shots here. But
Yeah.
it's all of the decision making and thought process has just
That's
not
where
been.
the evolution of the game has come.
Yeah.
If you think about it now, like I know it well because I dropped off the face of the earth when it comes to playing the game, and I've recently been trying to get back into it. But to even just scratch into Diamond, I've had to. Whenever I played Overwatch in the past, I like to just turn my brain off and shoot things.
Yeah.
And I'm just like getting by by the by the seat of my pants, by the how does it go?
Skin of your teeth.
In your seat,
I don't know.
seat of your pants.
What you trying? What phrase are you trying to use?
I don't know, just any one of them. but yeah, like having. I mean, given the fact that I played like almost 500. No, I think I played 500 games last season. This season, I guess season 26. I don't know what. But it's yeah. To get into Diamond, you need concepts that are currently lost here, which is like the concept of, I don't know, getting past a choke point effectively, comboing a lot of your abilities, having having a player designated to like contesting the point, for example, as well. Like these fundamental concepts that we take for granted these days as like as just a de facto. You need to know this is how you play the game. Wasn't being thought about at the time, and
that's because players only have a certain amount of bandwidth. Like you literally can't learn everything there is in Overwatch in the first couple of years. You just can't. Like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy to expect the players to be gods in the first couple of years. You just don't know how the game works. You have to learn from experience, learn from mistakes, learn from watching. There's like one player that does something incredibly, and you're like, oh shit, that's how you're supposed to play the game.
the more I think about it, the more I take back my Diamond take actually as well.
It's probably more like Masters.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
because I've seen some shit in Diamond. I was just,
I mean, yeah, Diamond is
okay, but
moronic.
why would he use?
Well, to Sideshow's point, like, how do you think fucking guitar players sounded before they invented certain chords? Like, they had to come up with that shit. They had to invent that. It was like, oh my god, if I press my fingers here, it sounds like a really good way. It's like before then, what do you think they were doing? Just fucking stringing along this instrument, just hoping music comes out.
But you said to Sideshow's point. Was that a point you made?
What? I'm just saying, like, it takes time to get really good at something.
I remember
so
this.
these guys are inventing Overwatch, just like people had to invent how to play the guitar earlier. Like,
Do you
guitar
think-
players were probably trash for the first 3 years. They
you
didn't
think
know
that-
what they were doing.
Do you think the guitar came out before the concept of chords? Do you think the guitar was invented before chords were thought about?
Well, not entirely, but specific chord. Well,
I don't know enough about the history of music, but that
I
tickles
barely
me.
passed music, okay? So give me a break here. But, I'm just...
How did they lose this?
Okay, I don't
Wait
care
a
about the
second.
science.
How
but,
did they...
hold
on.
were
How did
trash
they
at
lose
guitar.
this fight?
Wait. Oh, they don't? I thought this game was a 4-0.
Yeah. I thought it was a 4-0.
I thought it was a 4-0. It came up on... It's listed on over.gg as a 4-0.
Well, we know they don't win overall.
They definitely don't win overall. I mean, unless we're watching a portal to another dimension.
Is this the wrong game?
This might be the wrong game, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it is. I think this is the right game. I think I just got it wrong when I said it was a 4-0.
Stage 1, week 1, day 3. Yeah, it says April 17 on YouTube, but that doesn't sound right.
No, I mean, it should be like March the something. But I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter.
We've committed to 2 maps.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll keep watching this one.
It's Shock, it's Dragons. They had the same rosters the entire time anyway, mate. It doesn't make any difference. If we got it wrong by a month, it doesn't matter. Watch the rest of it. In fact, that actually makes it worse because it was a month later down the road. And it was still
map
all over
3.
the place.
What is map 3?
Map 3, launch it up, baby. What are we looking at? In fact, got ourselves some Ilios, have we?
58 minutes, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
In case you want to watch along at home.
Well, it's for Johnny.
Yeah, what was being played on Ilios at this point? I think it was...
Same shit.
Yeah, I think it was Tracer Widow and stuff. I think it was just Dive, wasn't it? With Mercy Zen.
Definitely Mercy.
Yeah, I mean, Mercy is 100% prevalent at
Maybe
this
a bit
point.
of Lucio. Why not?
Who's that down at the desk?
Me and you.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Just chilling.
Yeah, it's
was
the same
very-
people as in the pre-show we watched like 30 minutes ago.
It was very cool being involved in like season 1 of the Overwatch League
Yeah.
because God, it had so much influence. It was like this car crash of esports culture coming into Hollywood. You know what I mean? Do you get the
Hollywood?
Do you understand the feeling? You don't understand. You don't relate to this.
I don't know what you mean by Hollywood feel. You mean like actual studio production?
The approach to the product they were putting out
was
was so Hollywood.
It was very television. I've never worked in Hollywood,
Yes.
but yeah, it was
You know
very
what I mean?
television.
Like it was like, but I mean, I remember speaking to the like producers that we'd had who aren't working on the Overwatch League anymore. I mean, I think they left very quickly into the life cycle of the Overwatch League, but you can understand the stereotype of where the Hollywood director comes from speaking to some of them.
Yeah.
And
they didn't understand the game either at the beginning.
yeah, but it was like it was all very wishy-washy. It was all very much like a feeling with the approach of it.
Well, actually, talking about the San Francisco Shock, we got bollocked by one of the producers really early on because we were saying that the Shock didn't look very good at the beginning of the season. I can't remember the exact statements that we made on the desk. And the San Francisco Shock complained about it. And they wanted us to be more positive. They were like, I mean, we've bought into a franchise league and your employees are shit-talking our team that we've just spent a bunch of money on. What the hell?
That was early on, wasn't it?
That was early.
I remember
that was in the first... In fact, that might have been one of these first few games of the San Francisco Shock when they did look really poor. And we had to navigate all of those issues of being a somewhat independent broadcast that was working for a franchise league.
Yeah, working for the franchise league. Because normally the broadcast is ran independently.
Yeah,
It's
like
not
if you have a
by the NBA.
Yeah, if you have a franchise league, normally it's like Fox are doing or ESPN are doing the broadcast. They're not owned by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
They can be more objective, which is wild that we had to. Thinking about what we're like now, it's wild we ever had to navigate that. I mean, thinking about what esports was like at that point, like people were already. This wasn't. Overwatch League did not invent esports. People were already mega critical of teams.
Yeah.
It just
That's what
had
I
a
mean
whole
by the
different
Hollywood
dynamic.
approach, you know, almost like it feels like that injection up from the very early on. There was stuff that we'd had to, there were obstacles that you had to get over that we didn't even, I mean, it's just wild. We hadn't approached them in esports. That's what it was, that clash of esports coming into contact with massive buy-ins for these franchise leagues, for businessmen and people who were getting involved in esports for the very first time. and navigating that kind of space in the Overwatch League in Season 1. It's crazy, honestly. It was crazy to think about, honestly, and look back on.
And especially when we were so inexperienced.
Shock weren't the only team that actually complained about that. So I don't want people to come out and just target Shock. There were other teams that came out.
It was a lot of teams.
Yeah, I'm just using them as an example because I can remember them and we're watching them, but it was a bunch of teams. Like,
But if you actually think about, I bought NBA TV. This is so unrelated to the game. But like their commentators, actually, they have local stations. So they have like, their teams like the Utah Jazz have like their own commentating pair. Like they're obviously so biased because they're commentating on the Utah Jazz TV. Like they don't criticize their own team, and I'm like, okay, dude. But we were actually genuinely trying to just like do our job, be analytical and stuff. But
we all basically what we knew of esports broadcasting, at least for me, what I had been watching before I got into the Overwatch League was a lot of Dota broadcasts, a lot of CS broadcasts, and that was what I was into. And they were hypercritical. And the analytics, that was another whiplash moment for me coming into the Overwatch League. Yeah. Was like coming into it with the mindset that we were going to do these very long death segments, similar to CS, similar to Dota, going to be talking for a long time. And I get in there and it's like, no, you have 30 seconds to talk and make your point. And it's like, move on to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And that's like, again, that Hollywood influence coming into, I keep calling it the Hollywood influence because I can't really think of a better word for it.
Yeah. It was very interesting.
Even to this day, we should probably not talk about this for too long. But even to this day, it's like, if you're an analyst, it's like, oh yeah, we want to get to the game as soon as possible. So, we don't want to spend too much time on you because you're not important. We want to get to the game, which I understand, but it's just funny that it's like, don't care about me. I'm just here to like say hello. Yeah, I'm the clown. I'm the jester. Game is coming soon. Stay tuned.
With hindsight, it's also like I at the time I was a little bit confused, but I also think that esports is behind a little bit when it comes to analysis segments.
Yeah, definitely.
With broadcasts like in CS and Dota and other games like that. And I think the Overwatch League, I mean, because they wanted to get into the games quickly, for whatever reason, forcing the analysis parts to be concise with general viewpoints and things makes for an overall more, I think, accessible product for people getting into it.
Yeah, it's better. Like, what they were trying to do was good. It was just very unusual for us when we first came in.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like, the execution was always good either, but the idea behind it was good, like having pithier segments and having them be more well-produced, for sure. All right, does Undead clap cheeks? Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry. No, I mean, again, we probably shouldn't talk about it for too long. But like real sports, they don't even do analysis for halftimes anymore. Like you look at ESPN doing like football or basketball, they're just doing news reporting in the halftimes because they don't bother with analysis. So, I think that's telling, and I don't think, people shouldn't be too concerned about it or whatever. But let's watch Undead pop off on the Widowmaker.
I think people would be interested in it because we've already, I don't know. Like the obvious comparisons of sport broadcasts to esports is one thing, but every time I watch a sport broadcast, which admittedly is the only time I'm watching a sports broadcast, is probably when it's like the most eyes are on it, so they dumb down all of their segments.
Yeah.
But even still, it is like, it's mega accessible and watered down. It's like it's like a one-line opinion piece about a player, and then moving on to the next guy,
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Run to the bathroom.
I actually really liked what the Shock did in that opening fight as well. You can see the difference between the two teams just by watching their tanks. Nomi and Nevix have got... Roshan is just jumping in here to desperately try and make space. There's no timing involved in it. He's just going in because he wants to engage. Whereas the San Francisco Shock are actually waiting for some level of advantage in the poke and waiting until they have a decent position, and then they jump when they can apply a lot of pressure and be able to still stay alive.
Yeah.
Whereas Shanghai are just like, they just have a time, and then there's no positioning thought. It's just, we should probably just go now. Let's just go. Press W.
Well, I mean, it's one of those Overwatch concepts that is still, like, to this day, not in the Overwatch League, but like, GM or top 500 players, like, one big skill in Overwatch is being able to reduce the amount of spam damage you're taking, or like poke leading into a fight. And especially here, like 2018, so many tank players, and I went through this myself included, it's like, didn't understand how to advance positionally without taking too much damage. And then the basic command was just like, to my team, it's like, hey, I can't stay alive if we're like gonna wait around, so let's just dive as soon as possible, because otherwise I'll take poke and I'll die. And it's like, to a tank player, you kind of feel like useless, because you're just diving in because you're just taking so much damage and you feel like the game is unbalanced or whatever.
Yeah.
But like now people are just way more efficient in like encroaching the battlefield and like taking space without taking extra Zen orbs, without being Discord, whether it's like defense matrix, playing angles better, body blocking, like all of this kind of stuff. People are just way more efficient. And so when people learned how to navigate space in that like an entirely different way, engagements just became so much better across the board.
Yeah. The tank, I think tank is the area that's improved the most in the Overwatch League. Is that? I think.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think so. Because
What do you think, Jonathan?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take it. I probably agree with you, but I don't want to, say things too quickly. Like as you said, like the Widowmaker position, it's just you get absolutely destroyed. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
I feel like it's almost like a cascading effect though, where DPS players are coming in mechanically really good, and so they force obviously the supports. The support's positioning is one of the most important aspects to fix off the back of that immediately, because otherwise you're going to get punished more easily. And then, but tanks are just kind of like, the concept of the evolution of the mindset of a tank. I mean, I was in the restroom when you were talking about it, but I assume you're talking about how tanks have got more efficient now at avoiding damage before fights.
Yeah.
And then going into fights, setting themselves up to succeed. It'd
be fun to actually look at the difference between them here as well on Numbani, because Numbani is an interesting map. Like you see the way that Undead and D.Va are going to be set up. They're just going to damage boost Undead to try and do as much damage as they can up top, and the San Francisco Shock have to. Oh well, actually they have Baby Bay, so maybe they go. Maybe they send the Pharah around coast, and they try and knock him off the high ground that way. But there's normally a lot of battling and juggling for positional advantage here on Numbani. And they've
space.
They've tried to go back in, and that was pretty nice from Nevix as well. Knocking Roshan off the high ground when he goes up to try and re-engage, and Nomi gets pounded. I don't know where Nomi was, to be honest.
Okay,
it seems
that's
like
pretty good.
That was actually pretty good from Shanghai, though. They ping-ponged their tanks up to the high ground to keep applying pressure to the San Francisco Shock, and in the meantime. Presumably Undead did a shit ton of damage to Roshan.
Did
a shit ton of damage to Nomi.
Real.
Yeah, I kind of forgot how much Baby Bay played flex picks at the beginning. I think
it was early on.
Did he not play that later on in the season?
No.
I just remember him being hint scan. I can't remember him playing all of this kind of stuff.
It was 3 years ago, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was super early on.
What's this Valorant player doing? Shooting rockets. It's crazy.
Are we going to have a different understanding analyzing a Valorant play now?
Yeah, I know.
It's like, wow. Well, he could bring up the projectile agent if he has to.
One of the issues here, though, for Shanghai is that they've given Shock the high ground. They haven't fought them in the choke. They've given Shock the high ground, and now they keep having to jump up to, like, recontest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big problem is the Pharah, because like the Pharah puts so much pressure on the high ground. So like an Undead is so far away, so he cannot be dealing with a Soldier and a Pharah at the same time, which forces Shanghai back. I think you just have to like combine and prepare your ultimates. And
someone's ringing the doorbell. I don't know what that's about, but Bren's gone to investigate. Don't worry.
He's like doing chores during the recording.
What's right?
He's like doing chores during the during the recording.
It's crazy. All right. Yeah. So they have Nevix's bomb to be able to engage with here. Now Baby Bay's moved over to... So now they're running Soldier, Trace, and Mirror. The same kind of thing applies.
But I like what Shanghai is doing there. Like if they get the nano boost as well, like just being able to nano your tanks on that high ground and force Shock away. Like this is pretty decent rotation, like I don't think Numbani play has evolved that much, but okay, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean both of their DPS dying to the bomb, including their Tracer. How does that happen? No idea. We didn't see it on the screen, but I mean now they've just been pushed off completely.
They nano?
Yeah, and they don't even nano Roshan to try and re-engage. They nano Undead as he's being pressured and
Keep him
can't
alive.
contest the point.
Resource sponge.
Undead really was a resource sponge for this team. Yeah.
That's a great example of Roshan not being set up to succeed.
For sure, yeah, for
Right
sure.
there.
Like, he just has to jump back in and recontest. Poor dude. Poor dude.
That's why he changed his name to Rubik. Get a clean start.
Yeah, straight in the witness protection program.
So, okay, so Shock has borderline 6 ultimates here. And
Look
the
at that,
tank's
though.
already dead for Shanghai. They just dove in and died.
Yeah, they're just diving in. Like,
How did it...
I mean, yeah, this fight is silly because that's both of the DPS again dying to a D.Va bomb on both sides. It happened like Nevix got both of them and then Shanghai got both of them. But that's another situation where Roshan and Jushu just jump in to try and make space for their team. They don't slowly approach the payload using cover. They just use their abilities and dive in, and they're like, right, we're fighting the payload. Here we go. It's
it's kind of funny because I think if Shock, like a good team in 2021, like they wouldn't even have used Transcendence or the Primal Rage that Shock did. I think they could have just kept 6 ultimates because that was such a bad engage from Shanghai. Yeah. But like the fact that Shock even used 2 ultimates was like poor play in and of itself, because that was such a shit dive from Shanghai's tank line.
Yeah, but again, it all comes back to like at the time everyone's bad, so you have to use your ultimates in that kind of way.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Shanghai actually got rewarded because Shock used 2 ultimates.
Yeah. All right, does Nevix kill 2 with his D.Va bomb again?
Yes.
Probably, right? This is the other thing as well. When players were bad back in 2018, the D.Va bombs could be used just to secure kills, whereas now they have to be used as kind of zoning techniques to be able to get off resurrects, or you push them to be able to make D.Va bomb engage to be able to make space.
That did happen.
That's the success you have
at the tail end of 2018. Because I remember going to the London house and talking to the coaches about this concept of using the D.Va bomb. And at the time, it was a novel concept.
Yeah.
But I remember speaking to the London coaches just before their playoff run and talking to them about like some of the things that Valiant did well as a team, which was using the D.Va bomb not just to try and get kills, but capitalizing off the space it creates to create openings, to split a team apart, to jump on an individual player and win the fight off of that. And at the time, teams weren't really... I think teams knew about it, but it wasn't drilled, you know?
Sure, yeah. And that's the other thing. As a player, you can be aware that something is a good concept, but if you haven't set it up with your team, what, you're just going to randomly D.Va bomb and then call for your team to react to it in the moment? Like, you need to
build up to
discussed it beforehand.
Yeah.
If it's
I remember
concept.
shot calling in 2017 and being like, hey, if they D.Va bomb, we all run forwards. Because,
Sleepy tried to do there.
Yeah, but it's like at the time, because like sometimes you'd be in teams and like some people would back off and some people would go forward and you split the team, like just like you said. So like back here, oh my God, dude.
Oh no, Dante. That's so funny. Also, the fact that Zushu gets 2 with his D.Va bomb again, and they both just get rezzed by the Valking Mercy. Double insta-res. This was we talked about that last time when we had Custer on as well, where this meta held people back.
Wow. I wonder how differently we would look at Poke Bombs if we looked at them today and were like, were they actually like big brain? Or were his opponents just clueless, just walking into his bombs?
I think it's a bit of both, though. They were big brain for the time, but they were so new. Like, people didn't have bomb lineups like that. His opponents just didn't see him coming. And
for its time, they were fantastic. Like, he used to say that he sat in custom lobbies and like practiced D.Va bombs, and he was the first one to do that. So obviously, he was spectacular for his time. But I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of reasoning people have when they look back and they're like, oh, these players were so bad. Like, they didn't understand positioning or, like, how to avoid D.Va bombs. But, like, for its time, it was trend-setting.
It was,
So, It's just very different.
Yeah, the general player base would prefer the game to be back in this state.
With double mercy res? No way.
No, not in terms of like the balance of the game, but in terms of like the level of play.
Oh, like how much more fun it is?
Yeah, because it's like it feels team fights feel random at times. Just with ultimates going off, like it's very big swings of momentum. Whereas the game currently is you get a feel for how a team fight's going off of a very early mistake
or just positioning, and you can tell how it's going to go. I don't know. I think that the thing is, it's such a theoretical question because in order to get that to happen, you'd have to Men in Black mind wipe everybody that watches Overwatch because that's going to happen this season. Because the player base has gotten better. The general average viewer knows more about the game now than they did in 2018. In 2018, I mean, you would talk to fans and they, especially because the league was new, they had no clue what they were watching. And now most fans still have no clue what they're watching, but they have more of a clue.
Yeah.
So you couldn't...
I don't want to disrespect our viewers. Because obviously, if you're watching Plat Chat, you're already, several levels ahead of the average person.
You're an elite level viewer.
You've probably got your cranium that's spilling out your ears at this point. Like your brain matter. It's probably just right now
leaking fluids everywhere.
Not necessarily leaking, but maybe coalescing into like some extra wrinkles, just to process what we're saying. But I remember, I can't remember why, but I had a week off early in 2018.
Yeah,
and I remember thinking then I was like. I went to Guildhall,
right?
And I was just watching the games from Guildhall,
which is like, a local esports bar next to the studio in Los Angeles,
in Burbank at the time. And it was like a gaming bar. They had board games and stuff, but they would also hold like watch parties. And I was like, oh, I get a feel for like what it's like to watch because I won't get an opportunity to because I'll be working most other days, right? So I was like, oh, I'll go down and just kind of like I don't know, have a drink and watch the games from here instead. And the general fan consensus, it reminded me of like when you go to a sporting event and someone was like complaining like, what's he doing? Why is he running the ball there? Like just complaining about, and you can tell that this person is a casual watcher and fan of the sport.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're saying, but they feel like they have to say something.
Yeah.
To hold control over it, And it was a lot of that, which presumably still goes on.
I think that still goes on though, but that's not really exactly what I mean. But like, for example, if the question could similarly be posed of like, if you think this is similar to, let's say top open division right now. Like, let's say we all agreed that the skill level was similar. It wouldn't be for different reasons, but let's just say for the sake of argument that we agreed. Do you think that people would have more fun watching top-level Open Division or Overwatch League currently? I think people would still have more fun watching Overwatch League.
But isn't that because of the storylines and the players that we've set up here? Because is there not an argument to be made if you look at college football in America? Where people like watching college football because the rules are loosened up a little bit.
And because
there's more pop-off moments. The players have more individuality.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure that players do have more individuality at the open level, though. I mean, maybe, but it's also much messier.
Right, but people like... I think people like college football because they get to see a player pop off.
Yeah.
And the rules are relaxed a little bit. And
yeah. I don't know. Maybe the problem is always marketing those games when it comes to esports because people have this bias that they only want to watch the best. I mean, I only want to watch the best. I don't know why but it is a bias. But yeah, I don't really... There would have to be some major reason why I would watch. Like, for example, the talent takedown. I mean, that's just moronic. Like the level of play is appalling. But there's some kind of storyline there that makes people engage with it. You need some hook. Otherwise, you're just watching garbage Overwatch.
Trash talk segments.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
It's probably harder to innovate and do something new in current Overwatch, and I think maybe that brings some of it down. Because like when we saw Pine pop off like he did on Widowmaker, like we hadn't really seen that before in Overwatch.
Yeah, 2018 had a lot of new moments, like stuff you'd never seen before.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it that contributed. But now, like we've seen especially because we're not getting new heroes, we're not getting new maps, and like we've seen like most of those new things. So unless you get someone like Lip that just like comes into the league and just like pops off and like hits the most ridiculous shots, it's like, wow, that is incredible. Sorry, yeah, I meant Ans. I didn't mean Lip. I meant Ans. Right. Sorry. Even then, it's like we've seen a Widowmaker pop off. You know, like he's phenomenal without a doubt, but like you've seen that once.
Yeah, I think
and it's harder. Yeah.
The other aspect to that too is just that there are still opportunities in Overwatch for new things to be done. The game hasn't been solved, but some of it relies on the meta being shifted up as well. Like, for example, the double off-tank meta that we saw at the end of this year, that was new. Like, having a main tank play Hog was new and crazy and wild for this season. That was fun. Even if you're just a casual viewer, that's you immediately are going to recognize that you've never seen that before.
I think a few people at Guildhall would be like, hell yeah, Gesture on Roadhog is like the best thing ever, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
Yeah. Also, huge pulse bomb from Dante there, kills both of the players in the backline. That is a giga value ult.
I mean,
here it goes.
I feel like if you kill the Mercy, that is the value.
Okay, wait, what is going on here?
Denied her.
Okay, what? I mean, all right, sure. That is a weird... I mean, what is going on there? Why are they trying to send all 6 of their players up top in a clump?
I remember I remember early on, like, my thought process with this was always as well, if there was... I don't know. My thought process with the prioritization of, like, Mercy as a target. Because that should always be... If you think about, like, if you were to weigh on a scale the value you get from each individual hero being played at this point in time, like, Mercy's value is drastically over, I think, a lot of other heroes.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 times what other heroes
because of the
are.
res. Because I mean, I think I'm mainly for the res, to be honest with you. Is the primary reason, because you can just completely undo a pick.
And the ult providing you 2 reses as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that was the ult, was it?
It was, yeah.
Was that the ult?
Yeah, the ult gave you double res.
Always did.
What do you mean?
I mean, Mercy went through so many changes this early on. I'm probably butchering it with my misremembering it.
I mean,
but
I've seen them double resing in this game.
Yeah, but I thought she had double res even when she wasn't in Valkyrie.
No.
I thought at one point, Johnny, do you remember this? Am I smoking or what?
I can't remember. Honestly, I've forgotten this meta. Like, it's people talk about it a ton. I don't remember how it worked.
I thought at some point
she had double res.
I thought at some point she had double res without. And that was like the compromise when they reworked her from it being like turning it into an ability.
I can't remember.
We still want her to be able to res people, but yeah, I swear to God.
Okay.
She had like 2 charges of the res, and it was on a 30-second cooldown or something. I might be chatting shit.
I don't know. You might.
She went through so many changes to try and like adjust her in this year. In 2018.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was her Valk, because I'm only ever seeing them get double res off when they Valk. Like, Dak just did it then.
Okay, maybe it is then.
Yeah.
Maybe
also, just all of the timing of when they want to engage and like having a game plan for, we have an enormous advantage in this fight because we have Valkyrie, is more thought through by the Shock. And remember, by the way, guys, that Shock was a bad team at this point. Like, Shock was not an elite level team beating Shanghai right now. They are, I don't even know, but they must have been like a bottom...
Middle of the pack, I think.
No, they weren't middle of the pack, man.
You don't think so?
No, they were like bottom 3.
I think they were like a bottom 3 team. I think it was
at the bottom.
I think it was Shanghai, then Mayhem, then Dallas, then Shock, maybe? Or like Shock, then Dallas?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
What was...
They were down there, though. They were down there at the beginning.
I thought they were like middle of the pack. I mean...
Stage 2... Starting from the bottom, Shanghai, Dallas, Florida, Shock. That was stage 2.
Okay, so they were 4th from the bottom, not 3rd. But
yeah.
So
Dallas were generally worse than Shock, I think.
Right.
Well, there you go. That's the series.
But there we have it.
That just speaks to Dallas as well.
What, sorry?
That speaks to Dallas as well.
It does, doesn't it?
They were worse than this Shock lineup.
Yeah, it's crazy. But what credit we should give, and we should keep remembering how well this Shock organization changed this around. And it wasn't just like they didn't have to spend enormous amounts of money and make radical changes. They just slowly, iteratively changed their roster piece by piece. They added Moth, fantastic pickup. They already had Super and Sinatra on the bench. Then they had Choyobin, who's like this big free agent that didn't get signed to Overwatch League at the beginning, who was hanging around in the Korean contender scene. They just made amazing moves time after time after time. They signed Krusty. Like, this org beasted everybody else in terms of making the correct decisions.
I mean, I think they paved the way for the, we speak so highly of coaches in Overwatch. I mean, it was because of the Shocks move. Like, I think just that spotting of, okay, Krusty's had all this impact with the Boston Uprising, and then just picking up Krusty and then seeing the impact they managed to get off the back of that one pickup alone, changed the way I think about the game, at least in terms of the importance of players and structure around it.
Yeah,
which I go on about all the bloody time. Is that your food?
Yeah.
Okay, that's convenient because we're moving on to the last segment of this episode. We didn't normally do this,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Whenever we do these episodes normally, you can answer that
No.
and let it ring.
Yep.
Proper zoomer. That is just such a zoomer. I mean, yeah. At least message them.
Yeah, I'm gonna message them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't normally do the Bren's Player of the Week with these recap episodes, but I figured we were missing out a little bit. And I posted a tweet. Been getting a lot of criticism, both internally and externally, from our members of Plat Chat Incorporated LLC, about my Player of the Week award. I've been giving it to inanimate objects. I've been giving it to places, concepts, and now we're going to be tailoring it more towards Overwatch. Otherwise, I won't get paid anymore. So this week, my Player of the Week is going to be going to something you mentioned earlier, Josh. It's going to go to Swingchip. Actually, for this little timeline that we saw here of getting the Florida Mayhem guys to Florida, and I thought it was a nice little selection of tweets. We got to saw them arriving, some nice little, I guess. Little quotes as they were coming into the country and on their way to Florida. A couple of people were wondering why they ended up flying into Atlanta and were driving to Florida.
Yeah.
It was to essentially, because there were no direct flights from Seoul from South Korea, I should say, to Florida. So they figured for the safety of the players that they wouldn't put them on two connecting flights, essentially, or multiple connecting flights. And instead, they would drive all the way from Atlanta to Florida. So I figured I'd give it the Swingchip, Of course, it's like, I don't know how long of a drive it is from Atlanta to Florida, but it's pretty long. And it was, it was enjoyable at the same time.
This quote is amazing because I can just put myself. I mean, I have been checkmate in a group of friends where we're in a foreign language, and I'm uncomfortable speaking the language, even though I know a couple of sentences. Just say, "Give me sandwich."
When I was in Korea, the only phrase I knew was "주세요."
Okay, what does that mean?
Is please give me, I think.
Right. Is it like polite?
주세요? Yeah, I think it's 주세요. Yeah. And it's like a polite, like, please give me.
Right.
But I used it for everything. I used it for places. I used it for, like, when where I was staying in Itaewon, which is like the foreigner place of Seoul, and I would hop in a cab, piss drunk, and be like, Itaewon 주세요. Please give me Itaewon. And the cab driver would just look at me like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? This foreigner just coming in here, just asking for the city of Itaewon. Just give it to him. And I relate to that. But yeah, my Player of the Week is going to be going to Swingchip here. And I just thought it was quite nice. A little timeline of events of the entire process. The tweeting stopped for a while because Swingchip was driving. So I couldn't keep up the live tweeting, unfortunately.
Honestly, 4-hour driving.
Was it 4 hours?
No, it wasn't.
It was longer.
I think it was way more than that. I don't know how long the entire thing was, though.
It turns out keeping up a live tweet thread when you're driving equals skull. That's like the best part is a live tweet thread with a Pepe in it. Like memeing, straight to memeing on Twitter as you're driving. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, that is fantastic.
Now, the follow-up to this, the other candidate for the player of the week, actually...
this is me, by the way, when I'm in the car.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a video, I think, of you in Thailand, of us going... I can't remember where we were going from someplace to an Airbnb, actually.
It was probably gorgeous. Was it beautiful scenery? Was I missing
No, it was just a city.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't a long trip, and it wasn't like we had been up all night, but you were just out cold in the car, and you do this every time we're in a car trip.
Yeah, I do. Wait, whose dog is that? Wait, is that a dog?
I think so.
What is that? Who's Nimbus? Is that Swingchip's dog?
Presumably, yeah.
I mean, I was going to say a very cute dog. You can't see its face at all, but I just love dogs. It looks like a fluffy, cute dog. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Gets the A+ approval.
I like this discussion about the Genji specialist as well.
I didn't read this. I feel like people think I joined the team as a Genji specialist. Yeah, well, you did pull off some insane Dragon Blaze during tryouts. Also, he's been buffed, so he'll be able to frag out. I don't even need those buffs to frag on Genji. I like to imagine the checkmate did actually flex and huff smoke out of his nose.
Yeah. 10 minutes away from arriving. If you're 7 hours driving and you're just excited to get into a place and sit down, to be honest. So I can understand this. I mean, I can't really relate to the rapping aspect, but yeah, I mean, I
love this meme. I don't know why. I just love this meme.
That is great.
Oh god. The follow-up, the player of the week I would have given it to if I hadn't been constricted now to only the Overwatch scene. Just as a runner-up, I figured we should put up there. I tweeted it. My last tweet, I think.
Okay, you can't be stopped.
Wait, so you're proming your Twitter at the end of the show?
Well, I don't mean to plug it, but that's where I submit. You don't have to. I mean, you can hide my alias if you want. I don't know. I don't need fucking clout. But it's a cute video of a pig that I wanted to show.
I did see that. Some people were saying that you should have given it to Piggy from Houston Outlaws and then just showed this video.
I mean, that's kind of rude.
Is it rude? I mean, he's called himself Piggy. Yeah, it's only an insult if you want it to be an insult.
I just thought it was a cute little pig that I saw.
It's a very cute little pig.
Just going around in the mud.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to show people because...
I think you guys should get a little piglet for the house that just walks around the set.
I think we'd get tax breaks. If you keep livestock in Texas, you get tax breaks.
There's a difference between keeping livestock and having a pet pig in the house, surely.
Pigs are very hygienic.
You're watching a pig flop around in the mud in a yard. I know that they're hygienic, but they're not clean. Those are two different things.
I don't know. It'd be good to have on the couch, couch streams.
Also, I think people often buy micro pigs and then they just grow into hulking, great, pot-bellied enormities, don't they?
Wait, are they not like small pigs? Just like stay forever small?
I don't think small pigs exist. I think they're just baby pigs.
Baby pigs, little piglets. Yeah,
I could be wrong with that, though.
The impetus, though, as well, for me... I mean, we're going to end this episode at some point. But the impetus for me giving my player of the week to news stories was that I think it was at the height of the pandemic and it was just depressed at home. I like the good news, the feel good news.
A little bit of feel good.
But it's good to get back on track.
Well, we also got some feel good there as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add it if I spot something nice, like the little piglet or something. I don't know. Possibly. Anyway, thanks for watching. Episode 77. Of Plat Chat Overwatch. This has been a fantastic episode. As you can see, Matt didn't say much as usual, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys on the Thursday. Is that when we post the team previews?
Yes,
Thursday.
Who have we got?
See you.
Who have we got for him?
Seoul, I think.
And then on Saturday we've got Shanghai.
Yep, and that's what you got to look forward to. So we'll see you then. Goodbye.